What is up, guys? NYKia31 here, talking some NBA playoffs today. Using a game of NBA Live 14 as the backdrop, I am using the Indiana Pacers against the Miami Heat. And we're 2 games in, well, we're going to be 2 games into the conference finals after tonight. Heat and the Pacers played their game 2 last night. Spurs and OKC played tonight. And just want to give my thoughts as far as, how I feel these series are going to go. And before I begin, I need to, as a disclaimer, be honest up front and mention that I am an unabashed LeBron hater. I root for LeBron James to fail whenever possible. I don't want him to experience an ounce of success ever. But I don't use that to cloud my judgment. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that LeBron James is a bad basketball player. LeBron James is as good as you want. And beating the Heat is not going to be easy. Not going to be easy by any stretch. No one might beat the Heat this season. They could possibly three-peat. They have an excellent chance of three-peating when you have the best player on the floor. But I don't like LeBron James. Not in the least. And I am also a unapologetic Tim Duncan homer and San Antonio Spurs admirer. So, seeing how we have those 2 teams in the NBA Final Four, I have to check myself. I can't pile on LeBron too much. I got to restrain myself as far as that goes, and plus maintain my objectivity with the Spurs. As far as these 2 series shape up, I think they're both very interesting. The whole playoffs has been very interesting, very compelling, very fun. The most fun and engaging playoff run that I can remember in a very, very long time. Just so many good games, so many crazy moments. And you have the whole Donald Sterling subplot being thrown in there. There's a lot of stuff going on. The Pacers and their everyday daytime soap opera qualities. It's just a lot of good stuff. But as far as what we've seen so far out of Heat Pacers, it's very important, I feel, to not overreact to individual games within a series. Every game is their own entity. Like the first game, it looked like Indiana was leaps and bounds a better team. And if you haven't watched Indiana over the past couple of months and just tuned in to watch them that night, you would say, my gosh, how in the world are Miami going to even win a game? And then if you look at them last night, you think to yourself, my gosh, how's Indiana going to win another game? And that's part of the problem with the Pacers as a whole. The Pacers are impossible to predict. They're not very trustworthy. You have no idea who's going to show up on a given night. Paul George, he fades in and out. Lance Stephenson fades in and out. Roy Hibbert, he really fades in and out. Hibbert either shows up or he's putting up 0 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 fouls. I mean, there's no sense of certainty with Indiana where you can say, okay, I know that this guy's going to get his every single night and play a solid, all-court game. I love the effort that Paul George gives on both ends of the court, but offensively, he's hit or miss. Sometimes he looks like the reincarnation of Tracy McGrady. Other times, he looks more like Rudy Gay. But that, I feel, is going to ultimately keep the Pacers from getting to the finals. Because with the Miami, you always have LeBron lurking, and you know that he can explode at any time. D-Wade kind of goes in and out of the game, just depending on how his knee is going. The biggest problem for the Heat, the biggest challenge that they're facing is that they have no muscle inside. None. And with Bosh's game going to the perimeter this year more than it ever has, it leaves them really thin in the paint and on the boards. And Hibbert, West, they're able to capitalize on that. But Indiana's problem is that they're not very deep. You're putting in Scola, Mahimi, CJ Watson, or CJ Miles rather, whatever the hell it is, out there. It's just, Yeah, C.J. Watson. When I talk about C.J. Miles, but they just don't have a lot of answers off the bench that you can rely on for consistent stretches in the game when you need to go to your second unit. Miami has more answers in that regard. So a combination of Indiana's just general lack of consistency and not knowing who their offense is going to go through on a night-to-night basis is going to be the difference between them losing and Miami moving on. Now over in the Western Conference, OKC, San Antonio. As usual, the Spurs are flying underneath the radar, and they have been, that's the weird thing about the Spurs. For a team that has been consistently excellent for as long as they have been, they just go without any national attention. You know, the casual fan is into superstars, you know, for good reason. Superstars are what sell the game. Guys like LeBron, KD, Blake Griffin, you know, guys who make the, you know, SportsCenter highlights with dunks and threes and all that good stuff and no-look passes. Meanwhile, the Spurs just win. They just play consummate team basketball, play great defense, are impeccably coached, and they just keep on chugging along. And the Spurs have been dismantling teams over the past month and a half. Spurs are just playing at a really high level. I personally think they're the best team in the league. I feel like they were the best team last year and came within one rebound of winning the title. And then, you know, that's sports. That's going to happen sometimes. You know, you take nothing away from Miami beating them, and I'm sure that has supplied plenty of fuel for, you know, Tim Duncan's old legs, Ginobili, who's getting up there, and Tony Parker. You know, those guys have been playing like they're on a mission for quite some time. Even with Ibaka, I think OKC would lose. I think it would be a longer series, obviously, potentially a 7-gamer. I think the Spurs will win in 5, maybe 6. I don't think there are going to be too many nervous moments in this series for the Spurs. You'll have the game where Durant just wills a team to a victory by himself. He's that good. He's reached that level of play. Westbrook remains a problem at times. Here's the thing about Westbrook. I feel you get into trouble with Russell Westbrook when you try to pigeonhole him into the role of a traditional point guard. He kind of reminds me of Allen Iverson a little bit, where he's a type of guy where you just have to accept that he is what he is and let him do what he does and live with it. He'll have those games where he's just dominant, can't be guarded, and puts up monster games. And you'll also have those games where you just want to strangle him and drag him off the court. But I think you make things even worse when you try to force feed him into a role that he cannot fill, and that's of a distributing, team-running point guard. That's just not who he is. He's a shooting guard. He's a shooting guard playing the point. Now, when they're both clicking, when you have Durant doing his thing and Westbrook has his game going, they're dang near impossible to beat, even if they're going to be missing Serge Ibaka. I happen to think Ibaka's a little bit overrated. He'd certainly help on the defensive end as far as being a help defender in the paint, but I think that even with him, this series would be a 6-game series at the very most. So it looks like, I believe, we're headed towards a rematch of last year's NBA Finals. It'll be the Spurs and the Heat once again. I think Indiana will push Miami more than OKC will push the Spurs. I think on that side, on the Eastern Conference side, you have more animosity between the two teams, which can lead to more fun moments and some chippiness and, you know, just a whole heck of a lot of compelling moments, as opposed to OKC, San Antonio, where San Antonio is just better. They're just a better basketball machine, as opposed to OKC just being basically made up as of right now two really good players and really a supporting cast that, you know, doesn't really give you all that much. You have Caron Butler, who's playing very well for them. Jeremy Lamb can do some nice things. Reggie Jackson has done some nice things for them when Westbrook was out.
from downtown.
But the Spurs just have too much.
Won't go for three.
They're deeper. They execute better. They're coached much, much better. I'm not a really big believer in Scotty Brooks. And, you know, coaching in the NBA, there are only maybe 4 or 5 guys, 6 guys at tops, as far as coaches go, that make that much of a difference. Most of these coaches are pretty interchangeable.
That's a good look. It's good.
OKC just happens to be going against one of those coaches that do make a difference. The Spurs always execute well. They don't beat themselves. If you beat the Spurs, you beat them. You know, you beat them because you have a guy like LeBron who takes over the game, or your superstars go off and, you know, they don't match you. That's the one thing that the Spurs lack. They don't have that superstar that is a threat to go off for 35, 40 points on a given night. So I'm going to go Spurs in 6. And I have a hunch Indiana and Miami will find a way to get to 7 games. They seem to be destined for that. They're perfect foils for each other. They match up very well against each other. Indiana gives the Heat issues that no other team really does as far as exposing their lack of muscle and lack of size. And they annoy LeBron, which is always fun to see. And I think they'll stick around and draw this sucker out. Hopefully the referees don't hijack it. That's always another thing you have to look out for in these NBA playoff games, is the damn officiating. I have no faith in the integrity of NBA officiating. It's the worst officiated sport on the planet, by far. But we'll go Miami in 7 games for that one. And then look forward to Spurs and Heat for year number 2. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will talk to you all later. Peace.
Hey everyone, it's Jalen Rose, and it's time for the EA